So this is Anthony Chadwick, all the way from the UK, and Anthony's a vet. But what we're seeing here is basically an evolution of one of the biggest problems that vets have, which is that they need to actually get trained, where he says, well, why don't I actually provide a platform online, create a webinar vet? But he's also had an evolution since joining Crystal Circle in terms of how he's been thinking differently about his business, how he's gone out to raise funding for it, how it's become more of an online business, but also where Pet Webinar comes into it as well, and the international side of it comes into it as well. You'll hear his story and how he created that, and how things have evolved in the last year. So can we please give Anthony a big round of applause?
So Roger asked me to talk about building an online community. Just wanted to explain first, Alphabet International is kind of the company name. The reason I called it that was because about 12, 13 years ago, the accountant said, you've got a first opinion practice and you've got the dermatology that you do. Can you separate that out? So I decided I'd call it Alphabet because it's close in the alphabet. I decided to put international on the end because I bought vaccines from Holland for dogs that were itchy. And now, sort of 13 years down the line, we actually have done webinars for vets in 120 different countries. So somehow the sort of title has come true over time. So we've got the webinar vet, which is sort of my main business. And then I still do a day a week of dermatology. So I go out and I see difficult cases for vets to try and sort their dogs out. Then we do some webinars for pet shops so that they can sell certain products. And then we also do webinars for pet owners as well because, you know, Dr. Google talks a lot of crap sometimes, and I'd like to make sure that the information that you're finding about your pets is good quality information. So that's the aim behind that one. I'm going to give you a little sort of company story, who I am. Then we're going to talk about the why, because although Roger's asked me to talk about what, if you've not got the why right, then everything else is really difficult. So I'm really passionate about why. Little sort of quick company timeline, what we do, building the online community, which is what Roger asked me to speak about, and then we've got any time for questions or take them at the end. So if you can just run this. This is much better than me talking, so it's a little video.
Hello, I'm Anthony Chadwick, the founder of the Webinar Vet, which I launched in early 2010. Back then, the term webinar, which means an online training presentation, was unknown to the veterinary profession. As a practicing vet, I was frustrated at how difficult, time-consuming and expensive it was to fulfill my CPD requirements. After a busy day at my veterinary practice, I would jump in my car and drive up the motorway to attend an evening meeting and then drive home, tired and hungry. Each hour of CPD would take me 3 to 4 hours to accrue. I also attended 2 or 3 day conferences, but had to pay hotel and food bills on top of my travel expenses. The result, my 35 hours of CPD each year would cost me thousands of pounds to accomplish. Then, whilst attending an internet conference in early 2010, I had my light bulb moment. I wondered, what if vets could take advantage of the power of the internet and accrue the relevant knowledge to fulfill their CPD requirements online? The solution came to me instantly: webinars for vets. Since that fateful day, that one simple idea has transformed training for veterinary professionals. Just think how convenient would it be to complete all your learning via live webinars in the evenings rather than having to drive somewhere out of your way. Just sit at your PC with a cup of tea or something stronger and watch veterinary experts from all over the world lecturing on a wide range of topics. These online lectures are exclusive to members of the Webinar Vet. And even if you can't make the live lectures or would like to watch them again, you can also access the recordings.
So I'm very fortunate. I have the best job in the world. You know, I'm a vet. You know, if somebody speaks to Chris and they say, what do you do? He says, I work in computers. And they say, okay, thank you. Whereas with me, I get 3 things usually that happen when I tell people I'm a vet. The first one is, are you? Isn't that lovely? And then the next one is, you've got to be cleverer to be a vet than a doctor, and of course I always agree with that one. And then the third is, well, I've got this problem with my cat. So we always easy to start conversations if you're a vet. And this was taken when I just opened my new practice, which happened in July 2009. I'd spent a lot of money on it and sort of had equipped it and everything, spent a lot of money, not for a great deal of profit. And it was something that I was starting to say, I want to do something different. So we'd had an online pharmacy as well. But my real passion was I really loved scabs. More scabs, the better. You know, I love dermatology and I wanted to spend more time doing that. But I was doing all the sort of things that I didn't love. So if you have a dog with scabs or a cat with scabs, I'm the person that you should come and chat to during the conference. And this was the practice that I'd set up just before we'd opened it, spent a lot of money on it, and really there was not a great return. So I then was doing the online pharmacy, and I decided to go to an online conference, an internet conference, to learn more about how to develop the pharmacy, which was doing quite well. And I met this guy, Stephen Esser. Any Aussies in the room? Yeah, I know there's a few of you. Well, Stephen's an Aussie, based over in Sydney, and he basically, during this conference, he talked about webinars, and I just had the light bulb moment and said, this is how we should be educating vets, because there was the frustration of myself personally doing my training. So within 6 weeks, I'd done my first webinar. Stephen had sort of shown me how to do that. And the first webinar I did for my vets who referred cases to me. I got 55 vets on, talked for an hour on itchy dogs. And at the end of it, I said, would you like me to come into your practice and tell you how to treat itchy dogs better? And 2 people said they would. So at the end of that webinar, I'd made £4,000. I thought, I'm onto a winner here. I think Roger talks about proving concept. Very early on, I worked out that this was going to work. So I ended up going to Scarborough, to Filey, and one of my other passions is bird watching, so I went to Bempton Cliffs, which is one of the biggest gannet trees in the UK, but this is actually a kittiwake, so one of my other little passions. Shortly after that, I met Daniel Wagner, who I then was mentored by for a while, and Daniel actually, we did a weekend away, and we had this strange chap came to see us. His name was John Williams. Looks a bit like Blofeld from James Bond. But John actually introduced me to talent dynamics, wealth dynamics as it was then. And I realized, having done the test, that I was a star. And that was another light bulb moment, because I'd spent my time managing a practice and I wasn't very good at it. Whereas this was saying, well, okay, what are your strengths and how should I continue to really work hard and concentrate on strengths rather than, as Arfad said, our weaknesses. So I'm a star. And in fact, if anybody will give us the time, Sophie and I, we're going to give you a few songs tonight or tomorrow. We're going to make sure you've drunk well, because after you've drunk more, it sounds better. So I'm at the moment, I've kind of worked on sort of player and performer. So I'm very well recognized now within my niche. And I've also began to build a team up and so on. And I find that's really useful, that you can see how you can develop through that. So tiny bits of blue in there, but I think mainly green at the moment. I've got a team that I've been developing, which I'll talk about later. So the why for me is really important. My mission is to make, and the team's mission, to make veterinary education accessible and affordable to vets worldwide. As I said, we've had 120 different countries come to our webinars. And for me, it's really important that that's got to be the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning. And I'm really passionate about that. And it's actually developed into more talking about trying to reduce vet stress. We have very high suicide rates in the profession. And a number of times I've had people come to me and saying, you've really given me my mojo back. I was really depressed about stuff, but actually the webinars have really helped me to cope with things. And I think developing that a bit further, we've just been reading Salim Ismail's book, which is Exponential Organizations, and he talks about massive transformational processes. And I think, in my own little tiny niche, it's only vets, we've made a massive difference for the profession. And that's why, in the end, you build an online community because people like what you do and they come and visit. And we looked at, we did a survey recently, and our Net Promoter Score was as high as Apple's. within the veterinary profession. So in the end, you build a community because people want to come and be a part of it. A little bit about the company timeline. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. But what we do, we provide veterinary education to vets in the form of webinars. We're very clear about what we want to do. We don't do physical conferences. We do free sponsored webinars, virtual congress, and then we have a platinum membership. The free thing is really important. From the start, very quickly, corporate companies were coming to me and saying, we're amazed at the numbers you're getting on. Can we do webinars with you? And so their salespeople would go out and begin to tell people about the webinar that we were going to run. And of course, what happened then is once they'd done a vet had come and done a webinar with us, they were on our database and we could continue to market to them. So very quickly, we built quite a big community. Thank you. And the benefit of that was, of course, that for the first 5 years, I've never had a marketing team because other people were marketing for me. As I say, a lot of people would also recommend us to other vets. So the community grew very quickly. And very quickly, we also developed a membership, so people pay a monthly amount. And that's been, important to us as well. And then about 3 years ago, I came into the office one day and told everybody I'd had a really great idea. Usually people bury their heads at that moment because they realise that they're going to have to do all the work. Because I realised as a start, all I need to do is, and creators have the ideas and let other people do it. Is that how it works, Roger? So we did the virtual congress, and last year in January, we had 900 vets at that. And that was a 24-hour congress because we get the Kiwis and the Aussies in, and then we get the Europeans, and we get a couple of Americans and Canadians, and then the Aussies and Kiwis come back in again because it's midnight to midnight. So that's worked really well. I think it's also important, and Roger talked about this, the staircase. So you have the 3 different characters. So we do a lot of free webinars. We do webinars that are quite cheap just to kind of get people to sort of taste them. We have individual webinars, then we do a membership. We also do expertise series. We do the corporate webinars that are more expensive. So by doing it that way, you allow people to come in at different levels. And of course, the hope is that they'll rise up the levels, as you develop that. Roger again said, with an internet business, it's very easy to offer huge value and not charge a lot. So, you can offer 10 times the value, £10 equals £1 of cost. And what we've done by digitalizing our product is we've democratized it and we've demonetized it. 5 years ago, it might have cost me £5,000 to do my 35 hours. A couple of weeks ago, I was selling 35 hours of CPD at the virtual conference for less than £100. So it's really, really powerful. It allows so many more people to get involved and to do that much more training than they need to do. And the more they do, of course, the better they become. So people become really engaged. So I occasionally sell, but what I really want to do is create value all the time. And the Pareto principle stands very well for me. Probably 10% of my clients give me, 80 to 90% of my income. So we have 2 main strands. We have our membership business and we have our sponsorship business. And that actually does give us 80% of our income. The membership business, we have about 25,000 in the community. The total community, about 1,500 of those actually spend money with us. So about 90% of our clients have never spent any money with us. Of our community, they've had a lot of free stuff. They can pay monthly or annually. There's different memberships. We have memberships for horses and for cattle, as well as dogs and cats. BVA, the British Veterinary Association, approached me because they saw we were doing so much, and they said, can you offer something for our members? So we give them half price if they're a BVA member. And then we're offering, developing other offerings for other countries. So if any of you want to talk to vets in Australia or New Zealand, I'm sure we could sort something out. The sponsorship business is amazing because we work with billion-dollar companies, people like MSD, Eli Lilly. They're really massive companies. And what really amazes me, and Roger's intimated about this at Fast Forward Your Business, is, how unagile they are. When I ask them, what size is your email list, they say, we don't have one. And it's amazing, a huge multinational company doesn't have an email list. And this is where they're very, they're very ready to be disrupted, I think. And in fact, this was a webinar series we did this year for MSD for a new tick and flea product. And not completely because of us, but we were part of that. Within 18 months, this was the #2 product in the UK, so it went from nowhere to #2. And they're very pleased, and they're releasing the cat one, and we're going to do another series for them on that. So, I hope I'm just about ready to finish on time. 5 tips to build an online community that's worked for me. If you're not doing webinars, you should be. There's no reason why pretty much everybody's company here couldn't use webinars to kind of promote themselves more, to become an expert in the field, to develop a community. Once you've got them on one webinar, you can continue to get them onto other webinars. Make sure you record them. So many physical conferences never record the material. When they come to my conference, they go home with all the recordings as well. Use video, be active on social media, and offer a fantastic customer service.
Could you share what the difference is on the pricing of somebody who, you mentioned already 100 for the membership, compared to the sponsor? How much are you charging for a sponsor right now?
It depends. I mean, we charge up to £8,000 for one webinar for the companies.
Right. Yeah. And you actually, because you design it into channels like the dogs and the cats, you've got very specific as well. And I think this is one of the biggest areas is a lot of people think, well, how do we make money from our community? And the answer is, well, if you've got a big community, you can make money from people sponsoring and actually getting to that same community as you are. And so you don't need the community to pay you money because you've got other people paying the money instead, right? For sure. The other thing is that you just raised funding recently. Do you want to just tell the story of when you decided you wanted to do that and then what then happened?
Yeah, it's just the next slide, Suraj. Yeah, I mean, again, listening to Roger, that's been one of the big take-homes for me from Roger last year was I could see some of the other people in my community, in the group, the Crystal Circle group, were raising money on an idea. And I felt that I then had a strong business, but obviously as a vet, as a professional, maybe didn't have the mindset to think about that. So we spent most of this year going out looking for investment. And in August, we closed on the first round, valuing the company at about 2 million, which, I've been really impressed, and humbled listening to everybody's stories. There's some really big businesses in here, but for me, working in an area that I'm very passionate about, the fact that it's also makes me a nice living, is great, really. But I'm passionate about helping the vets, and that's gone to that's 2 million, and we've actually grown the team this year from 3 to 8 people. So it's allowing me to spend more time, really concentrating on what I love to do as well.
And then another question, which is around like the biggest difference of having a product which is a nice to have to a must have. It was the key part to this whole webinar side was that people have to do CPD. Yes. And so with the process of you actually getting your webinars recognized to be able to give CPD points, what was the process? How easy or how difficult was it to make that?
Well, it's very easy in the UK because the Royal College are very laissez-faire. They say people will march with their feet. If what you do is rubbish, they won't come back again. So It's been very easy. In America, it would be very difficult, which is one of the reasons that I don't really concentrate on America. So it's been very easy in that sense.
So they basically said, what, if people are using it and they're liking it, then they're willing to give points to it.
And we use professors from Cambridge, from America, from Australia. So we're using, the top experts in the world, which are being beamed into people's houses of an evening instead of them traveling. So
that's my final question. You don't do most of the webinars. You might facilitate some beyond it, but it's largely experts that you're getting in.
Exactly.
And how much do you pay the experts to do the webinars?
About £300.
Right. So they're getting a very small amount, and you're getting the whole leverage of being able to use that again and again. And you've now got...
We give them, if we continue to sell it afterwards, they get a percentage of the sale. So there's a bit of a book sale type mentality to it.
Very good. Very cool. Okay. So, and you heard from Anthony. I mean, he definitely, when I met you, you'd already tried some new things with different partners, and it just hadn't worked because of the people you had. But if there's anyone who kind of likes the idea of bringing this concept to your part of the world, I mean, that's the whole growth and the funding and everything that's now shown up. That's going to be Anthony's focus over the next couple of years for sure. Awesome. Great. Can we give Anthony a round of applause? Good job, Anthony.